Knowing the notes to any chord we encounter is essential for any player in both improvising and for playing accompaniment. We look at how to do that here. There's a PDF file that goes with this video. To get it, go to www.petemartin.info, click Videos, and scroll down to the Music Theory videos. It really helps my channel if you click like, so please do that so more folks can find these videos. I really appreciate it. The videos in this series are designed to be viewed in order with new knowledge built on previously learned material. If you're new to this series, I suggest go back to video number 1 and proceed from there. You can find these in all the PDF files at the same website I mentioned above. It can be very confusing for a new player to look at a chord progression, see F sharp minor 7 flat 5, and say, what the heck does that mean? A bit of study of how the naming convention works shows a very logical language that communicates the information we need to know. This knowledge of what notes are in each chord can very much help players who are improvising. If you know the sounds that make up the chords behind your improvisations, you can choose sounds that will go well with those. This alone makes the study of what notes are in chords so valuable. We've already seen how to construct major, minor, dominant 7th, and major 7th chords in videos number 3, 4, 5, and 20. Review those if necessary. To find the notes in any chord, use the number system. It really helps to know the numbers used to construct each chord, so my suggestion is to eventually memorize this with each chord type you play. When you figure out the notes in a chord, always start with the letter name in the chord, plus sharp or flat if applicable, and use the major scale for that letter's name key. For the chord we used a few minutes ago, F sharp minor 7 flat 5, we would use the notes of the F sharp major scale. We then apply the numbers to this key. For all examples in this video, we will use the key of C major. Let's review the key of C major. In a chord chart or sheet music, anytime you see just a letter or a letter with a sharp or flat symbol, it assumes a major chord. The major chord is the only chord that does not have, except for sharp or flat, some other kind of symbol following it. If I was looking at a chord chart and I see the letter C, it means a C major chord. Looking at the chord spellings PDF, we see the major chord is made up of the 1, 3, and 5 of the C major scale. Using this formula, I know 1 is the note C, 3 is the note E, and 5 is the note G. Make sure you look at all pages of the PDF file. Anytime you see just a letter or a letter with a sharp or flat symbol followed by either a small m or a minus sign, it assumes a minor chord. If I was looking at a chord chart and I saw CM or C minus, it means a C minor chord. Looking at the chord spellings PDF, we see the minor chord is made up of the 1, flat 3, and 5 of the C major scale. I know 1 is the note C, 3 is the note E, so flat 3 would be E flat, and 5 is the note G. Notice we always use the major scale of the chord's name to find the notes in a chord. This is very important. Anytime you see just a letter or a letter with a sharp or flat sign, followed by either D-I-M or a circle, it means a diminished chord. If I see C-D-I-M or C circle, it means a C diminished chord. Looking at the chord spellings PDF, we see the diminished chord is made up of the 1, flat 3, and flat 5 of the C major scale. Using this formula, I know 1 is C, flat 3 is E flat, flat 5 is G flat. Later in this video, we will take a closer look at diminished chords, so stay tuned. Anytime you see just a major chord or a minor chord followed by a number, it means we need to add at least one more note to that major or minor chord. If I see C6, it means a C major chord with an added sixth note. We call this chord C sixth, not C major sixth, as major is implied. Looking at the chord spellings PDF, we see that the sixth chord is made up of 1, 3, 5, and 6 of the C major scale. Using this formula, I know 1 is the note C, 3 is the note E, 5 is the note G, and 6 is the note A. Go back and review video 20 of this series. It talks about two types of seventh chords, major seventh and dominant seventh. The major seventh chord has the seventh note of the scale. The dominant seventh chord has the flatted seventh note of the scale. If I see C major 7 or C triangle 7, it means a C major chord with a seventh note. We call this C major 7. Looking at the chord spellings PDF, we see the major 7th chord is made up of the 1, 3, 5, and 7 of the C major scale. I know this is the 1 is C, the 3 is E, the 5 is G, and the 7 is B. As described in video 20, the dominant 7th chord is by far the most common 7th chord. Therefore, we just used the number 7 without anything else in the name to name it. The dominant 7th chord contains the flatted 7 note of the major scale. If I see C7, it means a C major chord with an added flatted 7th note. The common name of this chord is C7, but it can also be called C dominant 7. Looking at the chord spellings PDF, we see the dominant 7th chord is made up of the 1, 3, 5, and flat 7 of the C major scale. Using this formula, we know 1 is C, 3 is E, 5 is G, and flat 7 is B flat. Previously, when we flatted the 3 of the major chord, we got the minor chord. We can flat the 3 of the major 7 and dominant 7 chords and get the minor major 7 and the minor 7 chords. If you find this video useful, I ask that you consider supporting this channel and my website through my Patreon page, www.patreon.com/Pete Martin. For the very low price of $3 per month, you allow me to keep adding content on my YouTube channel and website. I also teach online lessons and in-person lessons in Seattle, if anyone is interested. Thank you. Have you noticed the naming convention yet? A letter name with a sharp or flat by itself means a major chord. Any non-number symbol that is not sharp or flat next to the letter name means either the third or the fifth is changed, as in the minor and diminished. Anytime a number 6 or over is in the name, it means we add at least one note to the chord. More to follow. Seventh chords are made by taking every other note in the major scale. For example, the major 7 chord is 1, 3, 5, and 7. Notice that this is every other note in the scale. We can add more notes to chords taking this idea of adding every other note of the scale. When we go beyond 7, we call these chord extensions. If we take the major scale and extend it to 2 octaves, we can add numbers to the second octave. We use the numbers in this second octave to name these chords with extensions. We can't play this many notes on the mandolin at once, so select the notes you like. Even piano players who have the ability to play all the notes will often leave notes out. For example, on the C major 13, most experienced musicians will leave out the 11, that's why it was in parentheses, which is the note F as it clashes with the third, the note E. If you look at the chord extensions section of the PDF, you see the naming conventions of the extensions are the same as the major, minor, and dominant chords. There can be alterations to chord notes. The 5, 9, 11, and 13 can be raised or lowered by half steps. Once again, choose what notes you want to play. Not all notes are needed. The most common chord to which we add altered notes is the dominant 7. Remember video 8, where the 5-7 chord resolves to 1? Review that if necessary. We saw dominant 7th chords contain the unstable tritone interval, which resolves to the stable 1 and 3 on the 1 major or minor chord. Altering the 5th and 9th intervals in the dominant chord can make an even stronger clash resolve sound. The sound is very common in the jazz of the 1940s and later. There's a chord called the altered dominant. It alters all the 5 and 9 notes from the dominant chord. It is made up of 1, 3, flat 5, sharp 5, flat 7, flat 9, and sharp 9 of the major scale. In practice, most players will play only some of these notes. A common voicing are used for C7 altered, contains 3, sharp 5, flat 7, and either flat 9 or sharp 9. Once again, it is up to you to try many possibilities and see what you like. There are 2 types of triads, 3-note chords, I didn't mention earlier. The suspended or sus chord replaces the 3 of the chord with a 4. If you see the symbol C sus, it means 1, 4, 5, or for C sus, the notes C, F, and G. The augmented chord sharps the 5th of the major triad. The symbols are usually C+, C+5, or C aug. The notes for C augmented are C, E, and G sharp. There is one more chord in jazz that players commonly use that I have not discussed. This chord is unique as it has two names, though it is the same set of notes. These names are minor 7 flat 5 and half diminished. If you're a jazz player, it is important that you know both names and the symbols associated with each. If you do not play jazz, you may never see this chord, depending on what you do play. The minor 7 flat 5 is written just like it sounds and is made up of 1, flat 3, flat 5, and flat 7 of the major scale. The half diminished symbol is the diminished circle with a slash through the circle. Just like the minor 7 flat 5 is made up of 1, flat 3, flat 5, and flat 7 of the major scale. Keep in mind not all musicians use the same chord naming conventions, but in my 50-plus years of reading chord charts and sheet music, these are the most common ways I see. Plus, there are many chords I didn't discuss here. If you run across any of these, search online or ask a friend how they are constructed. Your assignment is to learn the chord types for the music styles you play. Understand how the naming conventions work. Be sure to subscribe, click the bell icon to be notified of new videos, click like, and check out my website and Patreon page. Three, two, one. I'm Pete Martin. Thanks for watching. Cut.